Price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Black first, my brothers and my sisters, welcome to the Afro Elite YouTube channel. I'm your host, Afro Elite. Before we get started, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, like button, notification bell, because all of that helps the reach and the growth of the channel. And for everything you all do, thank you very much. Now, this situation is involving Malika Andrews and her lack of reaction to an allegation going on with a basketball player by the name of Josh Giddy. Josh Giddy is alleged to have sexual relations with an underage girl, and that's been brought up when the underage girl started bragging about it or starting exposing it. So the allegations got brought up, and Malika Andrews, who's known for reporting negatively when it comes to black men, known for defending women, she has not said anything about this situation. Not a tweet, not a post, not nothing. Now, our good brother, and I gotta give him a shout out, our really good brother, Torian Rain, from the Torian Rain Reloaded channel on YouTube. You guys got to go, if you haven't subscribed to him, go check out his YouTube page, because he also did a live on this, and the live also exposed a lot of the history about Malika and why people are criticizing her, because it's not just this one case. It's a bunch of cases that's accumulated to, okay, you are very on top of making sure any allegation about a black man is reported, making sure you make a comment on it, making sure you say something about it. But when the allegation is on a white player, a white athlete, you don't want to say anything about it. So our good brother Torian Rain made a tweet about it, and this is the tweet. Malika Andrews still quiet on Josh Giddy. No surprise there. I'd expect that from her kind. And now, as you can see, that tweet got 230,000 views. It was reposted on a bunch of different blog sites and everything. And that tweet was really the thing that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And then everybody started commenting on it. That tweet went super viral, mega viral, and everybody started picking up on it. Then everybody really started to comment on it. But Torian was not the only one who made a comment on it. Another former athlete made a comment on it by the name of Des Bryant. Des Bryant's comment is similar to Torian's, calling her out on her hypocrisy, calling out the fact that she'll go after a black athlete, even though he's not wrong, but she won't go after or even say anything about a white athlete. So people were calling out the hypocrisy, and none other than Stephen A. Smith, because this is Stephen A. Smith's thing. So he's going to defend Malika because Malika is doing the same thing Stephen A. Smith has been doing and being called out on for many years now. So Stephen A. Smith put himself in a situation that didn't involve him, but he put himself in this situation to defend her and to defend the principle of tap dancing, which is what they are. They're both tap dancers. But here's the clip. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
There's a subject that I think demands participation from people in this industry, including myself. And that is this subject that's involving ESPN host Malika Andrews. Now, for those of you who may not know, and it's very few in the sports world who don't know at this particular moment in time, she's been getting some major heat, in particular for former NFL wide receiver Des Bryant for ignoring the situation involving or surrounding NBA player Josh Giddy of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the accusations of him having an inappropriate relationship with an underage girl. First things first, before I get even any further, let me tell you what Des Bryant had to say. Let me read that quote to you right now. Des Bryant tweets, Malika Andrews, you went out of your way to crucify Brandon Miller, the #2 overall pick of the Charlotte Hornets on draft day, over something he didn't even do, wrote Bryant. Why haven't you said nothing about Josh Giddy? I advise you not to make this a black or white thing. Your parents really raised you wrong, and just because you went to a private school don't make you better. You appeal, and I know you're kind. You're just a puppet. I don't know how a former or current NBA player could sit there across from you and look at you with some kind of respect.
Yes, he should have called her out, and he did. I agree with what he said. She is a puppet. She gets used, her half blackness, her half side, the half black side. So she uses that to go after black men exclusively. Because let's be abundantly clear. If Josh Giddy was black, she would not be able to talk about anything besides him, besides his case, besides his situation. And we all know that, okay? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell there is a clear difference in how these certain people in the sports commentary profession report on black athletes, their allegations, their situations, whatever they got going on versus the allegations of white athletes. There is a night and day difference.
Let me say this. Des Bryant, I miss him. I miss Des Bryant because I loved watching him as a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys for those 8 years he was there before he suffered that injury and came back and tried to resume his career in Baltimore, and that didn't work out. I respect you, my brother, but that was a bit extreme. You see, without trying to get too involved in it, I feel compelled to get involved because I think that a lot of people are missing the issue involving Josh Giddy to begin with. Josh Giddy is being investigated for allegedly messing with an underage girl. We don't know the facts. And because we don't know the facts, and we represent a network, we have to make sure I's are dotted and T's are crossed before we provide commentary to that. The investigation is ongoing by the NBA. The Oklahoma City Thunder refuses to comment on it. Josh Giddy refuses to comment on it. And as a result, all we can keep doing is reminding everybody the brother being investigated. He's from Australia. He's being investigated for messing with an underage girl.
And there he goes yelling. And by him yelling, he's proving Dez's point. Because can anybody find a clip of Stephen A yelling and having this much vitriol, having this much anger and passion and corrective energy when it comes to him correcting a white athlete for a tweet or a post or something they said or something they did, or a white person in the sports industry, whether that's an athlete, a commenter, a owner, nobody. When they're white, he doesn't have this tone. There's a very specific and exclusive tone that Stephen A uses when he's correcting or castrating a black person, which is proving Dez's point, because Stephen A does the same thing that Malika does.
That's problematic. And the NBA is investigating because next thing you know, they may take some heat because people may be asking them, what are you going to do about it? If this was the National Football League, chances are he would be put on a commissioner's exempt list where he wouldn't be allowed to play until the investigation was complete. So getting on Malika Andrews about this, I believe, is off kilter. And it's a bit extreme. Bringing up her parents, her upbringing, some private school education. Come on, Dez. What if she brought up your stuff? Come on, bro.
Okay, first of all, it's not like Dez brought up her dirty laundry or a secret or anything like that. That's not what he did. He said you being raised by rich parents or you going to a private school doesn't make you better than anybody. So what is Stephen A talking about? What if she brought up your stuff? That's not Dez. He's not bringing up her stuff. He's proving a point that just because you are better off doesn't make you superior to anybody else. That's not bringing up nobody's stuff. And that's a bad point to make when it comes to Malika, because Malika always brings up people's stuff. She's always throwing little shot, pulling up dirt. She's always trying to throw something in on somebody. She can be having a completely normal commentary, and then she all like, well, he was in jail a couple years ago. She'll do that. And if you want proof of that, you should go check out Torian Raines live about it, because he brings up multiple clips of her doing that. And that's not what Tez did. That's not the same thing.
It's not necessary. And the reason why this is a big subject to have is because I think that we need to do a better job of picking our battles. Malika Andrews is a colleague of mine. There's no question about that. We got into our little tussle on the air after the Ime Udoka situation, or as that was brewing. She came at me in a certain way. I checked the situation the way I felt it needed to be checked. We had a conversation. Later, she apologized. I accepted her apology because I'm a human being and I make mistakes too. But we got folks coming at her all the time with death threats and other threats and all of this stuff. Why? Why?
Death threats are very serious. They should be taken very serious. I'm not going to belittle death threats. I'm not going to condone death threats. I've gotten some. However, that's not what Des was on. Des was criticizing her behavior. So the fact that death threats are even a part of this conversation is crazy. It doesn't need to be there. Nobody in this conversation was talking about death threats. She didn't provide any death threats that were given to her. So why are we even on this subject? Because Stephen A is making it seem like Des just flew off the handle with how he was dealing with or how he talked about Malika.
Let's talk about Brandon Miller for a second. I wish this brother nothing but the best. He can play, by the way. Was a star at Alabama last year. No problem with that. He was the #2 overall pick on draft night.
Okay, now he's going to try to excuse the way Malika really just threw shade at him on draft night. He's gonna, even though he didn't do anything, he didn't have a case really against him, the police didn't, it's not like he was arrested or charged and convicted. Malika threw shade regardless. And now Steven is going to try to give an exception and a pass. He's going to try to find some loophole to make it to where Malika had to do what she did.
In the National Basketball Association, he was going to be the #2 pick of the Charlotte Hornets. The city of Charlotte is considered the Bible Belt. What was his crime? There was no crime because the police in Alabama said they had nothing to arrest him on.
If he did not have a case pending against him, if he was not charged, if he was not under investigation, if the police were going to leave him alone, they should have left the subject alone. They were not obligated to speak on the subject if he doesn't have a case on him.
But what was later learned is that last year sometime, in February before February, he drove a car that had a gun in it that his teammate ultimately got out of the back seat, handed to somebody else, and they ended up killing a 23-year-old young lady who is the mother of a 5-year-old child. And those two individuals, his teammate, Brandon Miller's teammate, and the person that he handed the gun to were arrested and indicted on capital murder charges. When Brandon Miller showed up in South Carolina, you'd have thought he was Hillary Clinton. They were screaming, lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. How in God's name does Malika Andrews not ask that question on draft night? She had to. I'm telling you, me or any other reporter that was in that situation has an obligation to ask a team, an NBA official, or somebody about that question.
See, that's not making sense, because if she was obligated, just because there's so much scrutiny around it and everybody is talking about it, everybody needs to know these answers, if she was absolutely obligated as a reporter to make a question, it was not her choice, she had to do it. Why is that not the case with the white boy? So with the white boy, it's under investigation. We don't know all the facts, so we're just going to leave it alone while the investigation's still going on. But with the black guy, even though there was still, it wasn't all the way done, the investigation and all that was still going on, she could comment on the black guy's situation, but she can't comment on the white guy's situation because it's quote unquote still under investigation.
There's no wiggle room around it. If she hadn't asked that question, the bosses would have been wondering why she had that job. If I was sitting in her chair and I didn't ask that question, since after all he was the number 2 overall pick and he was getting drafted and all of this residue was just months removed, I would have been asked, why do I have my job? That goes for any journalist. So we have to take that into consideration.
Even if we make that an exception, if we say that's not what Malika wanted to do, she had to make a comment about the situation going on with Brandon. Even if we just completely wipe that off the board, just erase it from history, that's not the only time she's made disparaging comments specifically and exclusively about black men. That's not the only time. What Dez is talking about, he only used Brandon as an example, is the fact that she doesn't keep the same energy. That's the point. She doesn't keep the same energy when she's talking about a black athlete versus a white athlete.
It's not about protecting Malika Andrews. It's about protecting the industry. It's about understanding and making you understand what comes along with this job. You keep thinking we have choices. We don't always have choices. You have to ask those questions. Now, there does come a point in time where you can stop. You don't have to bring up stuff from years earlier. That's true. But in the Brandon Miller situation, that was not the case. In this Josh Giddy situation, because the situation is so sensitive, you can't go on the air with a strong opinion, sounding accusatory, as if you're indicting someone when an investigation is still open.
No, we're not going to play that game. No. Because even though what he said makes sense, you can't do that because, of course, if you represent a corporation, if you represent a network and you indict somebody publicly and then that person turns out to be innocent, then you know there's going to be a problem for the network. But the thing is that she's not even making a slight comment on it. She's not saying, pray for the girls in case this is true or anything like that, or he should be suspended while the investigation is still going on. She can say something about the situation. If he was black, she would say something about the situation in support of the girls, just the same way she did with other black men. So we're not going to play this game where, well, we don't know, so she can't say anything. She can say something. And if he was black, she would have said something. That's everybody's point.
And neither the league, nor the team, nor Giddy himself, nor the alleged underage person is speaking on the issue. We don't know. We don't know. So in the end, Dez Bryant, and to the Dez Bryants out there, what I'm going to say is, mad respect for Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant is somebody we enjoyed as an NFL player. He could ball. He's a good dude. His heart's in the right place. And what he's really, really pointing to is the fact that as black men, sometimes we get a heavy hammer while others get treated considerably with a lighter hand.
You would know that very well because a lot of times that comes from you. The way you go on and criticize, chastise, the way you spit venom when you're talking about black athletes, black men, and what we need to be doing and how a black athlete messed up and what he shouldn't have did and what he should have done. You do not do that, and everybody knows. You don't do that when it comes to white athletes. If you touch on them, he is very reluctant to say anything disparaging when it comes to a white athlete, when it comes to a white owner. He didn't want to say anything when it comes to Jerry Jones. He didn't. He defended Jerry Jones. He didn't want to say anything when it came to Dana White. He was caping for Dana White. He didn't want to say anything when it came to Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't want to say anything when it comes to these people. Anytime he does have to bring it up, it's this, he always starts off with, he's a good guy. I know him personally. I think this is a tragic mistake, but we do got to hold him accountable. That's not at all the way he talks about black men.
That offends us, that takes us aback. We don't like it. That's true. Malika Andrews is not guilty of that in this situation. She was not guilty of that in the Brandon Miller situation. And when you imply that she is, your argument falls on deaf ears because those who know better know not to take you seriously if you accuse her of that, because that means you don't know. And if you don't know and you're not taken seriously because your opinions are being dismissed because you don't have all the facts to support your position, when you really have something to say down the line, no one's gonna listen.
No, stop. And of course this comes from you because you do the exact same thing that she does. And people have been calling Steven out for years for doing the exact same thing. You guys are super heavy-handed, super accusatory, super venomous when it comes to talking about black athletes all the time. There's no criticism that you guys don't give them. Y'all waving y'all fingers, y'all sitting up there chastising them all the time, and y'all call it, well, this is just constructive criticism, or you just got to do better, you just got to do better. But you never ever keep that same tone, that same energy when you're talking about a white athlete. Okay, there's videos on YouTube of Stephen A himself side by side when he's talking about a black athlete and the energy he gives off versus when he's talking about a white athlete. He's had people come onto the show and tell him that to his face, that he does that all the time. Stephen A is well known for doing that. So it's not oh, your accusations it's out of nowhere, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, we do, because you do the same thing.
That is what we're talking about guarding ourselves against when we talk about issues. Make sure you're always in a position where you have at least some strong facts to support your argument. That way it always has potency.
Okay, he would be able to bring this up if the situation with Brandon was Malika's first and only offense, but it isn't. On Twitter, you can only put a certain amount of things in a tweet anyway, so he can't bring up every single example. He brought up one of the most popular ones, but that's not the only time. She's known for this. If this was the only time, yeah, it would have been a reach for him to really make this accusation. Not that it would have been baseless, but it would have been more of a reach. But it's not her only time being this way. So that's the point. He brought that up as an example, but this is a character trait that many people have been calling her out on for years. And that was Dez's whole point the entire time. And he stood on that when he pretty much said that Stephen A is twisting his word and missing the point, which Stephen A is doing deliberately, using straw man arguments deliberately to defend Malika. So here's a tweet of Dez Bryant pretty much saying, I will come on and I will give you the full context of what I had to say. At Stephen A, I love to come on your show and provide more context in what I'm saying because I think a lot of you seem to miss my point. I don't mind talking about nothing I've ever been through to validate my point even more on the unfair treatment against certain athletes in the media world. By the way, I chose not to go back to Baltimore. I got the text messages to prove it. I'm a man of integrity. I'm a man of respect. Me controlling my own narrative, showing the world who I am, means more than anything to me. Steven needs to accept this challenge and let him come on the show so he can explain himself. Because as I was saying, there's really only a certain amount of characters you can use per tweet. Even if you have the blue check mark, you can use more, but there's still a limited amount. So he can only express himself to certain degrees. Steven took it and made it seem like this man was just wilding out and his argument was reaching and it was out of proportion and he didn't know what he was talking about. That's what Steven made it seem like. So it's only fair if Steven has Dez on so Dez can talk about what his point really was, because Steven deliberately diverted from the point. And that's what I was just breaking down, that Steven is diverting from the point because the point was bigger than Brandon. But Stephen A. Smith was not the only person to put himself into somebody else's business. Jamila Hill quote tweeted this in her own response in defending Malika. With all due respect, your tone and approach to Malika was out of line. You made it personal by bringing in how she was raised. You didn't bring any of that energy to any of the male podcasters. She wasn't on air when the news about Josh Giddy happened, and it addressed when she returned. Okay, here's the thing. What we're not going to do, because she's oh, you didn't have that energy with the male podcasters. She's going to turn this into a gender thing. Dave addressed her because of her history of moving the goalposts and having a double standard with how she approaches situations that involve black athletes versus white athletes. And this is the same reason why people go after Stephen A. Smith. So it's not a gender thing. Okay, it's a thing of, okay, we see you shilling, we see you pretty much attacking black people, so we're gonna call you out on that. So this isn't a gender thing. She's, well, why are you attacking her? And don't, he said, watch your tone. Who is she talking to? Who does she think she's talking to? First off, he didn't even really go in on her like he could have, like he should have. He really didn't. All right. He called her out for her hypocrisy and her double standard, but he really didn't go in on her the way he should have. He could have went a lot harder. So for her to say, watch your tone, Jamila Hill, you got a lot of bad history. Okay, your paperwork is very dirty for you to sit up there and try to wag your finger at anybody. And then she continues to say she wasn't on air when the news broke. The news had been broke for a minute, though, and she hadn't said anything. It doesn't matter if she was on air. She didn't make a tweet. She didn't make a post. It would have been, all she would have had to do is be all like, ma'am, I don't know what happened, but I support survivors of assault or something like that. That's all she would have to say if she really cared. But she didn't address it at all. It doesn't matter if she wasn't on the air at that time. The news had broke and she went a minute without saying anything about it. That's why people got on her ass. Jamila Hill is literally the last person who needs to be saying anything at all as far as the situation to defend her, to defend Stephen A., to defend anybody, because she made this tweet right here. So she tweeted this article, this very, very fake article. I've already debunked everything in here. She tweeted this article stating, straight black men are the white people of black people. And she's going to say, some high heat from at Very Smart Bros and Damon Young. So she's agreeing with this. She's 100% co-signing this by saying high heat, and everything in this is BS, is anti-black male, anti-straight black male, saying that we have some privilege and we oppress all of the non-straight black males in black society. So this is the anti-straight black male vision that she views all straight black male in. So this tweet shows, it proves that she has an anti-straight black male bias. So anytime she talks, anytime she says anything about a straight black male, this is what she believes. You have seen her confess that this is what she believes. All right. So all of her thoughts, opinions, anything is going to be swayed in this direction because this is what she believes. Otherwise, she wouldn't have posted it. All right. So her paperwork is already dirty. Everything she says is non-valid. Now, getting into the points that she made, nobody is talking about Malika because she's a female. Nobody's on that because, oh, we don't want to go after the male podcasters. Let's go after the female. Nobody's on that. It's the fact that with Ime Udoka, with the situation with Ime Udoka, she was all like, well, we got to protect women. And what about women? And let's not blame women. So when a black man, and this is something typical we see, when a black man does something, especially when it's involving an allegation around a woman, it's the, oh, we got to protect women. It's not an anti-black male thing. We just want to protect women, protect women, protect women. So where is all this protect women energy when the situation, even if it's alleged, even if the investigation is still going on, where is any type of support, any type of protect women or believe all women or save women and women survivors? Where is that energy when it came to Josh Giddy? When it comes to the allegation of Josh Giddy, you don't see any of the feminists talking about, well, what about women, Me Too, and surviving and time's up, all of that stuff that they do with black men, and they say it's not specifically with black men. Oh, this isn't about black men. This is just about protecting women, and this is just about saving women and helping women from surviving. Okay, that's fine if you do it with everybody, but you don't do it with everybody. You only do that with black men. She was going after Udoka when Udoka was in a consensual relationship with an adult, and she was talking about, oh no, let's not blame the woman. So if you're such a feminist, if you want to be on the woman's side so much, why do you not have that same energy with Josh Giddy? That's why people are getting on her specifically about it, not because she's a female and we don't want to pick on the male podcasters or whatever the case is. That's not it either. Secondly, she's talking about, and I said it before and I'll say it again, she's talking about the fact that she wasn't on air when the situation broke. Nobody is saying she should have broke the situation. Nobody's getting on her about that. It's the fact that she's not made any comment until this mass amount of scrutiny around her not making any comment made her make something. If Torian Rain, shout out again to Torian Rain, if Torian Rain didn't really break this situation open with that viral tweet and everybody start talking about it, all the news podcasters and stuff like that, all these different media publications, social media networks like Instagram and Twitter and stuff, if they weren't talking about it, she would not have said anything. And we know she would have if it was a black male. So that's the problem. That's what people are calling out. The fact that you're not going to say anything about well, what a woman should do if she's a victim of assault or in any of that, protect women and believe all women, and he should be suspended until the investigation is done. Not a single comment. She completely did not even recognize it, nor did Stephen A, nor did anybody. Nobody would have recognized it. No news caster from the ESPN or whatever type of NBA or whatever, nobody would have recognized it to this degree had it not been for social media blowing the situation up. This is what we're talking about, all right? And the thing is that Stephen A, as he's going to defend his colleague, he should have stayed his ass out of it because he has been known to do the exact same thing. He's been known to do the exact same thing. Notice Stephen A didn't make no situation about it. And Stephen A is going to try to use a straw man argument and say, well, she can't come out heavy and accusatory because we don't know all the facts. Nobody's saying come out heavy and accusatory and reprimand him on something you don't know, even though they would have if he was black. But the thing is that you didn't say anything. She didn't say anything at all, didn't even recognize the situation for what it is. She hasn't even reported on it till essentially social media made her report on it. Now, had he been black in the same exact situation, even if they couldn't come out and directly say he did it, they would have said allegedly once or twice and lit his ass up. Lit him up and said, well, allegedly, we don't know, but then they would have spoke on it as if it was a proven fact like they do, and we know they do this. But when it comes to a white man, there's hold on, until we get all of the facts, we can't make a comment on it. We can't even acknowledge this has happened until we get 100% facts. We need to know the timestamps. We need DNA evidence. Until that, we're not going to pretend that this exists. But they don't do that when it comes to black men. That's the thing. Now, Stephen A is going to be like, yeah, I understand. As black men, it seems like we get a heavy hand. Yeah, that's because you do it. That's because you're one of the main tap dancing shills who's on ESPN, who's on these networks who do that. He's one of the main ones who do that. And people have called him out on that for years now. So, of course, he's going to defend Malika Andrews. And Jamila Hill, she's, anti-straight black male. So, of course, she's going to do that too. Family, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. What do you think about Malika Andrews? What do you think about Stephen A's defense of it? What do you think about Jamila Hill's defense? What do you think should happen with Josh Giddy? Let me know that in the comment section below. Also, you should be following me on my various social media platforms, which is Afro Elite on Instagram and then The Afro Elite on Twitter. If you guys like this, please make sure you guys hit that like button. It's very important that you do. Hit that subscribe button if you have not subscribed already. Share, comment, hit that notification bell. All of that. We're very close to 10K. We're definitely going to get it. Thank you guys so very much. Now, with that being said, my brothers and my sisters, be one salute to every single last one of you all. And you all have a good one.